Welcome to Software Testing Unleashed, the podcast for testers, developers, and software makers who live quality as an attitude. Get fresh ideas and sharp insights to grow your mindset, to learn new methods, and to drive real change in how we build software. Better software and better teams for a better world. Hi, I'm Richie, software quality coach, keynote speaker and author, and a podcast host, obviously. My guest today is Ben Linders. Ben runs his own business helping teams and organizations improve the way they develop software. He's known worldwide for his work on agile, lean, quality, and continuous improvement. As a speaker and author, his books and games are used by professionals in over a dozen languages. He supports teams through training, coaching, and facilitation, always with a strong focus on collaboration and professional growth. Yeah, and he's someone who doesn't just teach agility, he lives it. In this episode, we talked about team culture, collaborative problem solving, and how psychological safety can make or break progress. Why is diversity a strength and a challenge at the same time? What do you do when sticky notes from your last retrospective are still untouched weeks later? And how do you build trust without waiting for trust to magically appear? We explored concrete ways to create a safe environment where people speak up and solve problems together. Ben shared techniques from his workspace and his workshops that help teams move from problem stuck to action ready, and why a little bit of fun can go a long way. So now, have fun too and enjoy the episode. Hi Ben, hi, nice to have you here on the show.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure for me. It's one of the episodes in the of the collaboration with the OOP conference, and normally I do this conference episodes live at the conference, but this year I cannot attend because I go skiing in this time. So
that's a good excuse.
Yeah, that's a good excuse. But I'm happy that we can do the episode now remote because you have a very interesting topic for us. I read your abstract, and there are some keywords which triggered me positively, and it's because there was collaboration and mainly the agile culture and the culture of a team. And there I get big eyes because as I read in your abstract, you said that agile culture or the culture of a team is the big part for change and for collaboration and for working together. So you can correct me if I get it wrong. But what's the culture for you in this term?
Well, the culture thing is basically how we do things around here, because that's basically what culture is about. So how people feel about working together in a team. And the workshop that I'm going to be doing at OOP is about collaborative problem solving. And as the word says already, the key thing in there is collaborative. It's not individual strengths, it's not individual knowledge, but it is combining the knowledge from people together within a team, or maybe with some people outside the team here, if they have the knowledge in there, to come to a better solution, and probably also come to a solution faster, but certainly come to a better solution for a problem. Better meaning that it will solve the problem effectively. So that's the idea behind collaborative problem solving.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, well, let's go deeper into this, because collaboration is a very soft word. So how can we improve this collaboration, and what can we do for it?
Well, there's a lot of things that you can do actually, and the key things in there is to have some kind of trust level within the team, within the people working together. Trust or psychological safety, also a term that's used a lot in those kind of situations, because if you're trying to solve a problem, the key aspect to work on first is to understand the problem and building a shared understanding. And for building that shared understanding, you need the contributions for everybody who's there, everybody who has somehow witnessed a part of the problem, because nobody has seen the problem in full. We all have parts of the puzzle in there, and you want to bring that puzzle together. So if you want to do that effectively, people should feel safe enough to speak up, to share what they've seen. They share what has happened, what they have witnessed, their ideas about it, to bring that together. And if that level of psychological safety isn't there, people are going to be silent. You're not going to get the full picture, and you're not going to get a good insight into the problem. And again, having the insight, having that shared understanding of the problem is key to solve it. If you have a good understanding, solving the problem is actually easy. The hard part is understanding it.
Yeah. And what can we do to get this psychological safety in a team? Because I often see meetings and workshops, they are just done, and a lot of people feel not very happy within this workshop. So how can we build this trust in a team, in an environment?
Well, that's the difficult thing. What I usually tell people, if you want to work on psychological safety, start off by creating some kind of micro situation, micro culture of safety that allows you to work on it. It's a kind of bootstrapping. You need some psychological safety to work on psychological safety. That's the only way you can do it. So it doesn't just come in, okay, we'll do a couple of exercises and now everybody feels safe. It simply doesn't work that way. So one way to do it, for instance, is if you're doing a retrospective, there's a couple of techniques in there which you can use to make people feel more comfortable, feel at home, feel safe enough to at least tell some of the information that they have. And once this starts going, this is something which is then a foundation that you can build on. So it is starting off nurturing it and building it up. The other thing is, of course, be aware of behavior that will destroy psychological safety. And unfortunately, there's a lot of the stuff around. So, and that's the tricky thing, because if you start building it and people start destroying it will go much faster than building it. So you can destroy just with one or two remarks what you build up for weeks. That's the thing where you have to be very careful.
What are typical behaviors that destroy this safety environment?
Typical things are blaming, finger pointing people in there, telling you that, okay, you did something wrong. And there's actually techniques around that. Like you can start by just having the assumption that, okay, whatever we did was the best thing that could have happened given this situation, which is something that's called the prime directive. So assuming that everybody did the best thing we could, we still have a problem. So let's see what we can learn from the problem to do it differently in the future. But start from the assumption that people did the best thing they could, given the situation, given their knowledge, given what happened along the way. And be aware that if there's some blaming starting in there, and that's the key thing that I always tell the people facilitating retrospective, be aware if you see any kind of blaming, jump in and bring it back to a good, productive conversation within the team. And there's lots of techniques for that, like free phrasing a statement, like not telling somebody you did something wrong. No, tell them what happened. Don't mention the person, describe the situation.
Okay, understand. So if we get the this environment for a safety for that people can have trust to each other and begin collaborating and to talk about the problem, and they get the whole view of the problem from the team side. I think there is, if there are different people there, they have sometimes a totally different view on one part of the story. So
I
how
would
can
hope so, actually.
yeah how can we deal with that?
Well, actually, I would hope so, because if you want to solve a problem, you want to have a certain level of diversity in the team that is exploring the problem. You want to have those different views, because those different views are going to give you a richer image, a richer view of what actually happened in there. If you have people all with the same background from the same team working together every day, you might not get that real image. And you need that deeper insight. Also, you need to get those discussions between people who have a different view in there to get to a better solution. So diversity is actually a key thing. The fun thing is diversity is also a key thing for change. If you have a team without any diversity, it's going to be pretty stable. Then they're not looking for any change, because nobody's going to be initiating anything in there. The other round, if you have too much diversity, you're going to go into chaos. But for most of the teams, we have too little diversity. So that's mainly the worry. Not too much, we have too little.
Yeah. So put in the diversity in a team, in a workshop, to make different roles, different opinions in there, to get a better problem solution then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You want to have parts of that puzzle and the different views, the different, and then also people challenging each other. And this is also a key aspect, again, from psychological safety. Psychological safety is not about avoiding conflict. It's about handling conflict in a mature way. So if there's a conflict issue in there, and if you're problem solving, most of the time there are some conflicting issues in there. You want to have a positive approach to the conflict. Again, understanding it to solve it, not avoid it, because that's not going to solve the problem.
I think this is a very critical part in the process, because people have different opinions there, and are also very strong communicators. In the conflict can be very explosive in such a workshop or coming together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It can be, and again, there's techniques that you can use to manage it. But you already mentioned people being provocative. You might also have some people in the room who are more internal focused, who are more introvert, who are a little bit scared to speak up. You can work on the situation to give space to those people to share their ideas, their thoughts. And I, what I've seen in a lot of situations, you're actually going to be surprised, because a lot of the people who are more introvert might have a better view of what actually happened in there than those who are being extrovert. So you want to have their ideas, you want to have their view, their thoughts about it, their questions, and a simple way to create space for them is just to invite them to speak up and ask other people, just listen for a moment, listen to another view in there, and get the complete picture in there.
Yeah, and when we talk about the problem, how do we get there to make first steps into a solution? Because a lot of people, they stay in their problem view, so we can nothing do. It's also bad. It's a big problem. Nothing can happen to change it. How can we get forward in this process?
It is part of managing the process, and I actually try to stay in the problem space, but more in understanding the problem than complaining about the problem or complaining about what happened, but really building that deeper understanding in there. I try to spend as much time in there before I go to solutions. If you really have a good understanding of the problem, again, finding a solution is pretty easy. But you want to spend the time in there. And what I also see happening a lot of time, people tend to jump to solutions. They look at the problem, they say, oh, this is what probably happened. Let's do that. Okay, but if you don't have the complete view, you might be acting on insufficient knowledge, on the wrong aspect of the problem. You might not be at the root causes of the problems. So you might be just touching the surface without really solving it. As a facilitator, your job is to guide the people to the different steps in the process in there. And you're not going to be focused on the solution. You're going to be focused on the process that will bring out the best solutions. You're going to be relying on the knowledge that's in there in the room. So you want people to stay in the problem space. You want people to explore, visualize it. That's also a very key technique in there. Not just talking, but visualize it. write it down, make images about it, whatever you can do to really engage people in there, to really get that picture of the problem until the stage that you feel like, okay, I think we got different views there. I think we got a good understanding. Looking at what we have right now, let's start thinking about how to solve this.
You mentioned now visualizing the problem. Do you have more examples for that? How can we visualize it?
Drawing is a technique that you use in there, and that depending on what kind of problem it is, you can do, for instance, draw a causal analysis diagram, going deeper from causes which are again an effect from something that happened into deeper cause until you really get up to the root cause in there. Sticky notes can be used to collect information about a problem, to organize it. As long as it's something that you can easily move around, that you can easily play around with. Because the thing is, you want to be fluid. You want to be open to all the information that's in there. You want to collect that information, get it out there in the beginning. You're going to be diverging. It's going to be broader. And then you're going to be converting to, okay, now that we get a better picture, let's see what we can find for a solution. So the key thing is writing. It's not going to stick with people if you write it down and or visualize it in some way using some kind of techniques. It's going to be much better for people to comprehend it. You can also see where you have information, where you may be lacking information. That's also something that will help you with that.
What's your what do you think about that? Because I've now an idea from my coachings, from my one-to-one coachings, that sometimes if I get the clarity of a problem or of a situation, the solution is the next step. There's no problem to get this to solution because it's then clear. You know what to do then. So it's a very small step. What's your thinking about that?
I think that is true, actually. If you really have a good understanding of the problem, solutions come easy. I think the other thing is, and that's where we also go back to Joe Weinberg, if you only have one solution, then you don't have a proper understanding of the problem. You need to come up with at least 3 different solutions. And as long as you can't do that, go back again to the problem stage, go back again to exploring the situation, because you don't have a proper understanding if you can come up with 3 different solutions. And then you can decide which one to do. And maybe it's the combination of 2 or 3 other solutions. That could also be the case. But you want to have different ideas on how to solve that, not just one.
Yeah. When I look at workshops or retrospectives, sometimes teams have a problem with that because they create solutions, maybe different solutions, alternatives, but how can we bring them in a practical way? Because sometimes there we have the sticky notes with our solutions at the end of the workshop. Then all people go to their daily work, come back one month later, and the sticky notes are still the same. So how can we deal with that?
There's different aspects in there. One would be you want to have the actions that come out of a retrospective or based on any problem-solving meeting. You want them really to be actionable. So you want them to be clear on what people will be doing, who will be doing it, how you will be doing it, and probably also the expectations. Like, okay, if we do this action, what problem is it going to solve? What are we going to witness? What are we going to see? So make it into some kind of experiment, like we're going to try this, and this is the outcome that we expect to see. The better actions you have, by the way, also the fewer actions you have, don't have too many actions coming out of retrospective. Try to have only 1, 2, maybe 3 maximum. The fewer actions, the better chance you have of getting those things done. The other thing is making your actions visible on the day-to-day work. And I think the best thing to do for that is put them on your task board. Reserve a space somewhere on your task board, whether that's online or physical in the room, where you put down the actions of the retrospective. Just the actions. You don't need the whole diagram, but you need the actions so that you can follow up on them. You might even put them as a task on your task board. That's also what some of the teams do. Like, okay, we agreed to do this. Let's work. Just put it down as a task. Somebody can pick it up, move it into a column saying we're working on this, and you can follow up on your stand-up meeting to see if it's actually happening or not. But make sure that it's there in the room, that people can see it. It's again visualization. What visual gets done.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you mentioned in your abstract the keywords gamification too for this collaboration part and for working together. What's up with that? Do you have there any tips for us?
Gamification is using techniques, principles from game playing, but in a non-game situation. And the idea is if you use gamification techniques for problem solving, you're going to create an environment that makes it easy for people to speak up. Again, it's the kind of bootstrapping technique for creating some kind of psychological safety. It's also a technique for having people focused on the problem by using these kind of techniques. Game playing also makes it easier to come up with a solution and say, okay, we're going to try this, we're going to experiment with that. Like in a real game, you try out something. And if it doesn't work, if you fail, okay, then you lost a life. You got 8 more lives, so you're going to pick up a new life and try it again next week. Well, the same is true if you want to change something in your organization, you want to change something in your team. It might work, it might not work. So feel safe enough to try something out, feel safe to fail and try something new in there. So those kinds of game playing that you use to come to solutions. And that's also the kind of stuff that I do in the workshops. I do, for instance, a game around impediments where people pick up signals, think about what the impediment really is, get to decide like, okay, we're just going to try an action or we're really going to do an experiment. They can gain points with playing with those kind of ideas in the game. Things can happen along the way. They can get support from management. They can also lose support from management. That's also going to have some impact in there. They can end up in jail. So lots of fun things can happen in there. And that actually stimulates people to start working with this. And it creates a safer and a fun environment for people to try out some of their ideas. And that's the main benefit that I see from using that kind of techniques in my workshops.
I think it's a big part in there when you tell it this way is that the fun part makes the problem maybe a smaller from this. If I always look at the problem gets bigger and bigger and overwhelming. And if I come together with other and playing around with a game and have some fun about the topic too, so I think that the problem will get smaller and more handleable.
It can get manageable, but again, it also makes it easy for people to bring in any aspect in there from the problem that you would like to know about. Like maybe this was the situation, maybe that happened. So it's making it more manageable, making it less dramatic, which also helps. Maybe a little bit more neutral, not a negative thing, but more a positive approach to solving the problem, which also helps to find a solution. So you're not going to focus on what are the things that we can't do. No, you're going to look at what can we do, what can we try out, what might work. So it's creating a different kind of setting that makes it easier, more comfortable for people to share stuff and more comfortable to talk about things that actually made them uncomfortable.
Yeah, I understand. Yes. When someone hears us today and says, okay, now I want to do such a collaboration problem solving workshop with my own team, what are your 1, 2, 3 tips or first steps that you would give them?
I think the first thing would be to think about, okay, what is the main problem? What's worrying you right now? What's the thing that's keeping you awake? So that you actually have a real situation that's important enough for you as a team to work on. So not just do a game for fun. No, you have something where the people say, yeah, if we can get this out of the way, that will really make a difference. The second thing would be look for somebody who can help you with that, because if you're gonna go to such a problem solving situation, you're gonna need somebody to facilitate this for you. And the facilitation needs something to somebody to be neutral. So he's not going to be involved in the problem. He might not even, he or she might not even know of the problem, but it's going to help the team to explore it and then come up with solutions. So help the team to bring out the best information in there. I think the other thing would be is checking the culture, checking the environment, checking anything that might be worked on first, on some things that you might need to get out of the way before you can actually start working on the problem. There might be somebody who's saying, yeah, I don't want to talk about this, or I don't feel comfortable with this, or I don't see any solution. So if you have those kind of hurdles, try to get those main hurdles out of the way first before you go into the session.
Okay. Ben, thank you very much for these insights in your workshop and in your work too. Unfortunately, I cannot join your workshop and the OOP conference, but I think it will be great from the parts I hear now. And yeah, thank you very much to be here on the show, and I wish you a very good workshop at the OOP.
Thank you again, and thank you again for inviting me and for doing the interview. This was fun.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.